Hey guys, thanks for, well, actually.
Start again.
Get it back in. Take two. Welcome to another episode of What Goes On podcast. This time we are joined with the lovely and amazing Richard and Fred from Right Said Fred, who have done an insane amount of stuff. Like it's incredible. It's looking, because I mean obviously I go by Wikipedia, which is like the best way of of researching it, because it's all guaranteed to be true.
we have a few assassins on our Wikipedia site. Because,
right.
Occasionally they log themselves in and put some pretty unpleasant stuff up there, and so we have
That's me.
That's him.
I do that all the time.
Yeah. So we have to keep an eye on that, and there's one dedicated page. I think it's called "I'm Too Sexy," and whoever does it just hates us beyond. We are worse than ISIS as far as he's concerned, or she's concerned. And so we have to we try and monitor it, but it's difficult, and also life's too short. Let them say what they want to say. But yeah, we've done all right. We've hung in there.
Yeah.
That kind of hate site is really bizarre to me, because it takes a lot of energy, firstly, to hate so much, and secondly, to turn that hate into action.
Yes.
So you're basically giving all of your energy to something that you apparently hate. We've had this come up a couple of times on podcasts. Yes. It's just, what on earth, where's your head at?
Yes.
To quote.
No, I agree. We've had some people
very odd.
A great deal of effort. One lady used to make elaborate food, and she would grind up glass into the food. I mean, which takes time. This is
rice pudding.
Rice pudding in particular. She would go to a great amount of effort to put all this shard glass into this food.
You can't see it.
And then send it to us.
What?
No, it's all right. Culinary trick.
Yes.
Yeah.
What was? Did you ever speak? Did she ever sort of communicate in other means via food? I mean, did you find out why she hated you?
She reported Richard to the police for stealing money out of a joint account that didn't exist. And then she started writing some very, very bizarre happy birthday stuff, but with an upside down cross. Right. And all this sort of...
and then I got a Valentine's card, and the heart was cut in half.
That's right, yeah.
Because
we've had some quite...
We had some weird...
We've had some... I don't know, I think maybe it was the original way we sold ourselves on, shirts off and that sort of image. And I think people thought we were people that we aren't, and so we did attract a lot of some very, very bizarre fan mail. We got a lot of bespoke porn. Fans would make porn and send it to us.
Wow.
And some of it got very brutal. There was one.
Very hard to eat potato salad.
When you're dipping your pork prawns. We actually did have we were in our PR company, this is going back a few years now. We were in our PR company's office, and they'd brought in all the Marks and Sparks takeaway stuff. Yeah. And so they said, we had a box, it's back in the sort of late 90s. And so it was all VHS and stuff, So we're going through this VHS, and most of it is, hi, my name's so-and-so. And then suddenly we put this VHS on, and it's just a kitchen. And we go, what's this going on here? Then the camera pans back. There's a guy tied up.
Naked. And it was a real 70s moustache.
This really happened. He was tied up with his arms to some, I don't know what was he tied to, but his legs were splayed across a wooden counter. This is no word of a lie. And so we said, we did our Marks and Sparks, and then you hear these stilettos walk in. There's a woman with all the gimp gear on, so you can't see her face or anything, and she's got a hammer in one hand and a set of nails in the other.
Oh no!
Yeah. And we go, no.
Happy birthday.
It was real. We thought about, should we report her? And we actually know who it is, because she became quite weird or beyond that. And so we were watching it. Then we suddenly saw what she was going to do with the hammer and nails. And we were just like, we do not need to see this.
No.
Yeah. It was very, very, very odd. So for some reason we attracted that for quite a while.
Do you remember those two girls that came in from Europe to watch us train?
Yes, we used to get these two goth girls from Belgium, and they'd fly over. They wouldn't talk to us, just wouldn't talk to us. And they would stand at the gym looking through the window like this, and then you'd wave and they'd look away. And then you'd walk up to them, just because we knew that they'd come back at shows, and we knew them for a while, and they just wouldn't talk to us, but they would just follow us. And you'd be in the restaurant, and you look around and go,
they would just fly over from Belgium just to watch the gym. And then we did another thing. We had a charity thing, which I couldn't stand these things. We did a charity event, and the winner had lunch with us.
Right.
A girl, do you remember?
Yes.
And she'd shaved all her hair off.
And she had beautiful, really gorgeous, long, thick, hair. Most girls would be envious of.
Yeah.
She didn't present you with a wig made out of her hair, did she?
Well, maybe, or pillows.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you do get some weird.
Yeah, with some weird people.
I mean, 99% of people.
So some people are really sweet.
Oh, really sweet.
Yeah, and we've done a lot of stuff for a charity called. There's one called Last Wish and Dreams Come True, which is kids who are terminal, and particularly we did a lot of stuff for cancer because kids have that, they shave their heads, and so we did this whole thing. It's called To Be a Fred Head, and we used to go up to the Great Ormond Street, and that was great. And when we do a song like I'm Too Sexy, you think, it's a song, and suddenly then you meet these kids. And this one kid, when he wrote a little will with his mum, and he wanted to be buried with a record and a picture of us, and you suddenly think, well, it is a silly song on one hand, but to this kid, it actually means quite a lot. So,
did we get it right? He wasn't asking us for us to be buried, was he?
Oh, maybe it could be that.
I was wondering whether we got that round the right way.
Yes. Maybe he knows that in the video.
That was the most sinister of all of your people approaching you with weird stuff. He actually asked. You just didn't realise it. That was all.
No. You got that horribly wrong.
It's amazing how much songs and can mean to people.
It's a big mistake to.
You should never run them down.
Yeah, I mean, we have some songs that we've done. We think, I wish we had done that, but we have. And then you're close to people and say which any songs you've done you don't like, and we always refuse to say that because for someone that song might be important.
Yeah.
So we don't go down that road.
I remember years and years ago they were talking to Gene Pitney, I think it was, or somebody like that.
Johnny Mathis.
Oh no, Johnny Mathis. It was.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
And he was doing a radio interview, and a lady phoned in, and she said to him, my favourite song of yours is blah blah blah. Can you tell me what you're thinking about when you're singing it? And he was honest. He made the mistake of being honest. And he said, I've been singing it for 30 years, and so when I'm singing it, I'm thinking about the shopping, I'm thinking about what I'm going to eat that night, and she didn't want to hear that.
She was crushed. Yeah.
Yes, she was. She wanted to hear him say, I'm thinking about the song. So you should never, ever, devalue what you do by being too casual towards it. You have to always bear that in mind, that for somebody out there, it might have a meaning.
That's a really interesting point. The fact that what you create becomes bigger than you.
Oh, it does.
And it's like a bird leaving the nest, isn't it? But at some point, it's not yours anymore, and you can't treat it as though it is you or a child or whatever.
Exactly.
And it's just understanding that and accepting that, and it's probably good for our humility as creatives to accept that, really, isn't it?
Yes, it becomes. Yes, somebody we used to work with, he used to say that once the song becomes successful, it belongs to everybody.
Yeah.
Apart from the royalties.
Apart from the royalties.
that would be nice.
Exactly.
Taylor Swift knows a song about that, doesn't she?
Yeah, she does. Yeah.
She knows a song about a few things.
It's we always with I'm Too Sexy. I always think it's a bit like having a daughter who is who you grow up with and you love and everything's fine. Then she gets to the age of 17 and she starts hanging out with a bunch of real losers and drug addicts, and you can't control her. She hangs out with all sorts of people that you would never really approve of, and that's what sex is like. Sometimes it's ours, but it goes into places that we have no control over. And so you just have to let it go. You just have to.
We got this bizarre email from a journalist in Texas, I think it was. I think the guy's name is Daniel Green, and on his death certificate it said cause of death, oral excitement, and he was in a strip club, and he had a girl dancing with him, and he had requested "I'm too sexy," and he had a heart attack and died. And so the coroner said that it was a mixture of the music and the visual interaction.
He'd asked for this girl with big boobs.
Yeah, she was quite famous. Can't remember her name.
No.
And I shouldn't have married in the first place. He was dancing with this girl, and so on the desk we had this weird fax or email, I can't remember what it was, from this journalist saying, "Did you realise that your song kills people?" And it's not like a smiley, you know. And this guy on the death certificate actually said oral asphyxiation.
Asphyxiation.
Yeah, caused by a combination of music and the dancer.
She was quite famous for being.
She was
heavily endowed, wasn't she?
Yeah, I can't remember her name.
Yeah. Anyway,
that's bizarre.
So you're.
It is bizarre.
I'm too sexy is actually a murder.
Yes.
Do you remember that Python thing where it was a lethal joke? Do you ever see that stuff?
Yes.
Where people died, and I think
right.
They were shouting this joke across the divide during the First World War to try and kill the.
That's right.
Well, maybe your song would have worked better than the lethal joke.
Yeah, it would. Yes, yeah, exactly. It's proven.
Yeah, exactly. It's I mean, you know, it's just one of those things. It's sexy just took on a life of its own almost from the start.
And so going back to the start, when you were, I mean, we're going to probably have to do the podcast in reverse to what we normally do because we're off on a really interesting train down here.
Okay.
But when you were writing that, was it calculated in your minds? Like, we're going to go for this kind of demographic. We're going to try and hit these different things. We're going to write a song like this.
No.
And blah, blah, blah. So how did it come about?
Well, we'd been on the circuit for a long time. We'd already been, by the time we were writing Sexy, which was 1990, we'd been on our first tour was 78 with Suicide and bands like Joy Division. So we were already
very, very similar in genre then.
Peas in a pod, mate.
Such an
Peas in a pod.
Peas in a pod.
So all through the 80s, we were in and out of record deals, and we got signed by Capital EMI in New York, so we went over there. That all went horribly wrong. Came back to, it's just a long story short, we came back to UK in 1988, 89 with our tails between our legs, and we just thought, let's try and do something. Let's try and write a song that no one's ever written. I know it sounds a bit ridiculous, but we thought, let's try and write something that we don't think anyone's ever written. So we said, well, we work better when we used to work better when we had a third person in the room. So we said, well, let's try and find someone to work with. So through a rehearsal room I used to work at called Ritz in Putney, we met a guy called Rob Manzoli. And we said to Rob, and Rob was skint, we were skint, he was about the same age as us, we had nothing to lose, so we said, look, any idea you've got, we're not interested in hearing. Any ideas we've got, we're not going to play you. So let's start with a clean slate and try and come up with something that we think is fresh. So originally we had this bass line going around, and it was the first time we'd worked with a computer program, a guy called Brian Pugsley. So we're in Acton, it was hot, it was in the basement, and we've got this bass line going around to a house beat.
It was a bass line for another song.
Yeah, it was a song called Heaven. And we're going round and round, we're like, oh man, we're getting nowhere with this. And because it was really hot and we'd been down the gym for a couple of years, been in quite good shape, Richard just out of nowhere, he walks in the room, takes his shirt off and starts singing I'm Too Sexy for My Shirt. Just like out of nowhere.
Apparently, this is how Beethoven started.
Exactly. And Mozart.
Shirt off.
Yeah. Exactly. It's all the classics.
It's all the classic stuff. You know?
So anyway, we thought it was quite a funny idea, and then we were skint, so we had to save up every time we go into the studio. So we played around with the idea, and we got a big list of people who thought things we could be too sexy for. Then we needed another part, and Rob had this guitar part, which was a da 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 da, just like in the box on the C sharp minor. And so we thought, well, we've sung the bass line, let's just sing the guitar line. And I tend to write the lyrics, so I wrote, I'm a model, you know what I mean? And then we went back in the studio, and we went through different incarnations, and eventually we hooked up with a DJ called Tommy D, and Tommy put a proper house beat to it. And at that point, the song started to sound like this might be a hit record. So we went round, we finished it at Red Bus Studios in January 91, was it? Something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah,
yeah.
Like that, yeah.
And we wanted, like, it was Richard's bass line, but we knew the bass playing had to be a bit more competent. No offense. And
none taken.
You know, well, we're quite blunt with each other. And so we got Phil Spalding in. Phil was a friend of a girl we knew who was a receptionist at Red Bus Studios, and she had said, I can put this record together for you, and because I think it's a hit record, and we'll get it on the radio. We went around all the record labels. They all said no. So she, as one last shot, she said, let's get it to Radio 1. Because they were playing what called spot plays. Simon Bates and a few other, Gary Crowley, were doing spot plays. And we knew a plug, she knew a plugger. So they got the acetate into Simon Bates on the breakfast show, which I think was the biggest show at the time. I think in Europe even, it was massive. And fortunately, for Simon, in all fairness, you know, DJs get a bad rep, but he was open-minded enough. He said, let's play it straight to air. And they played it. And the phones went insane, apparently. Well, we weren't there. Tamsin was there. And she phoned us up. We were in the gym. She phoned us up. She said, this has gone mental. She said, they played it twice back to back. So,
really?
Because the phones just went, what is this? You know,
because there was no playlist back then. It didn't seem to be. It was very loose, you know. That now
it wasn't as strict, was it?
It wasn't anywhere near as strict as it seems to be today. The one thing that you touched on at the beginning about whether we were very sort of Machiavellian about the song was the lyric. We knew that we wanted to have sort of archetypal imagery. We didn't want, you know what I mean? So it had to be things that never changed: cats and hats and shirts and happy whatever. We had one I'm Too Sexy for Stallone,
Doris Day,
and Doris Day, and all that. And then we thought, well, actually, you know, it dates it the minute you do that. So that's the one area where we were quite.
That's true.
We were quite sort of thoughtful, I suppose. Yeah,
but we were already down the gym. We started to lose our hair in our mid to late 20s. So we just, and Richard's Richard's partner boyfriend was a hairdresser, and he said to me one day, he said, just give it up, shave it off. So I went, yeah, right, will you do it now? And he said, yeah. So he shaved my head, and I really liked it. So, and just when we were signed to Capital EMI in New York, they weren't paying us a retainer, so we were working. And I was in a gym, Richard was in a gym. We both started training at that point. And so the whole thing sort of, people think we shaved our heads, went down the gym, wrote the song. It was
all chaos.
It was chaos.
It was really chaos.
Yeah, we didn't really.
There was no planning at all.
No, apart from we knew I'm Too Sexy was a good lyric, and we knew that we wanted to repeat the living shit out of it.
Yeah.
So that's what we. That's what we did. We knew it had to be constant.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. And. And also it's sort of the bands we liked when we grew up. You know, we're big fans of T-Rex and Bowie and a lot of the glam stuff and Repetition. You know, Mark Bolan. The Repetition factor is huge, and we liked all that. We liked all that stuff, and so that was, I think, some of that bled through. You know.
And also, the repetition thing, though, it's really important. If you're going to repeat one thing, it's got to be a silver bullet, hasn't it?
Yes,
I think, and that's the point of the I'm Too Sexy. That's just, for whatever reason, it just cuts through ages, stages, generations, all kinds of divides, and it's just like, bang. And actually, on a kind of, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? You know, they used it on The West Wing.
Yes.
Yeah. So Aaron Sorkin heard the song, and it was like straight into his mind, and bang, I've got an episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
There are not very many songs that have been able to kind of penetrate and generate an episode of such an amazing production as The West Wing. So it's just mad. And like you say, it wasn't all carefully orchestrated. It's just all the planets aligning slowly.
Yes.
And then you need to know when they're coming together and then just kind of slam it home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we started dancing. We've been like.
Oh no, the internet's going funny.
Is it my internet?
No, Fred, I think your internet's gone funny. You're kind of frozen.
Oh, I come. In working. Can you see? Me?
I can see you, but you're kind of gone a bit robotic.
I'll leave him there.
Cool. He's going to go and he's going to come back.
It's not my fault this time. Hurrah!
What do we do for intermission? Should we just like, I'll dance? Like...
We need to, yeah. You know any people who can play instruments? We need to... I've got a song we could play.
Okay.
I'm too sexy for this Zoom.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it was all quite chaotic, and all because of the labels. I mean, the labels didn't just say we don't like this record. I mean, some of them were unbelievably rude. I mean, Island Records, which we were in the meeting, and the guy, if he could have got away with punching us, he would have done. and then he actually sent a fax following up the conversation. What a miserable record it is. And then he went and said any album that had this record on would never sell. He actually said it.
Oh man.
So we just thought, okay, and then part of us thought if we could cause this kind of reaction with one song, then we got to get this song out there. And so in all fairness to Tamsin Roglic, so she was only 18 at the time, really young, but she had the balls just think this is a hit record. Let's make this happen.
She was Businesswoman of the Year, I think.
Yes, she was.
On the front of the Daily Mail.
Yes, she was.
Yeah.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, she was very, very impressive. And she just would not let it go. And at that age, you know, your youth just carries you through your this energy. And she delivered. Yes, she did. She was very ballsy.
Yeah, we met. So I remember prior to the band happening, we'd both done videos. You know, Mick Jagger and I did a few with Dave Bowie. And when Sexy was on Top of Pops, we were waiting sort of backstage. David Bowie was sitting there, and I'd already met him doing these videos. And he looked at me and he said, "What are you doing here?" I think he thought I was doing bloody tea. Yeah. I said, "We've got to hit records, you cheeky bastard."
Well, he was. At the time, it was Tin Machine, which tanked. You know, I wasn't a big fan of Tin Machine. I almost felt like saying, "Well, we're in the charts. What are you doing here, mate?" He had a few.
He was very nice. He was
very friendly.
Yeah.
We weren't going to take the piss. We decided not to.
No, but it did make me like, "What are you doing here?"
Yeah.
Anyway, that's by the by.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Going. No, go on. Sorry.
I think we were going down the same thing. But so going right back.
Yeah.
When did you first start getting interested in music? How did that sort of all come about?
Nice. I know the exact moment. I was quite a good footballer, and I did trials and stuff for teams, and I was sort of quite good, not good enough, but quite good. And I remember being at school. I was about 11, maybe 12, and there was a band called The Gift or The Game.
The Game.
And they were playing at the lunchtime. In the lunchtime, they did a gig at the in the assembly room at lunchtime. And I went in there, and I didn't think they were particularly good, but they were certainly better than I was at the time. But what I did notice is that there was about 30 people, and 29 of them were girls, and I was the one bloke. And I thought that has potential. I like that idea. So I went. I said, "My dad, I want to learn guitar," and my dad was very, very patient, and he was a printer. And round the corner from him was Ivor Morantz in Rathbone Place. He worked in Percy Street, and he went in there and said, "My son wants to learn guitar. Have you got a guitar he can? What's for a beginner?" Dad came back with a classical guitar, so I started learning all the proper stuff, finger picking and everything. And then my guitar teacher, Mr. Prentice, he said, "This is really your gig. Why don't we start looking at some blues?" So we started doing some very basic blues stuff. And I did about a year and a half with him. And then I started teaching myself. Richard picked up the bass about a year after, 2 years afterwards?
About a year, I suppose. Yeah.
And the idea was we didn't
know anything.
We didn't know anything.
Didn't know anything at all.
No, and we didn't have any idea. We didn't have any. Lots of bands wanted playing cover bands and all that stuff. We never wanted to do that. We always wanted to write our own songs. And so the bass and the guitar were just vehicles to write. That was kind of it.
I remember when I bought the bass guitar, I bought it from a guy over the road where we lived. And I also bought an amp, the head. And I took it home, plugged it in, nothing, no sound. I thought, what the bloody hell's going on here? So I went back and he said, oh, you need a cabinet. What do you mean I need a bloody cabinet? You didn't tell me.
It's a trade secret, mate.
It's a trade. Absolutely nothing. I didn't even know you needed a cabinet.
Yeah, very funny.
So that was, and I got into it because Fred got into it. That's the truth.
Yeah, just the right, really. Then we thought we met some other people. Then we put a band together. We were called the Actors. We went out doing shows all around the punk period, all from about '76. So we were doing the Hope and Anchor and all those stuff. And we just did not. We were like we did a square peg in a round hole. Yeah, we were sort of this power pop sort of thing going on, and. But then, just through luck, we got Suicide. We hooked up with a local businessman who liked the band, and he bought us some equipment. And we had our own PA, which was very rare in those days. And Suicide came over for a tour, and were coming over on a shoestring. And I don't know how we knew this, but our manager contacted them and said, "We will supply the support bands and the roadies and the PA." And all you have to do is and just put our band on the tour. And they went, yeah, right, because they had no money.
So we were the support act and the roadies and the PA providers.
Yeah, so we'd turn up at the gig, we'd do the loading, they'd do their sound check, we'd do our sound check. We would, they did have their one tech, I think, or a sound guy, but everything else was on us. And we would then do our show, they'd do their show. We would then have to wait, strike all the gear down, put it in the van, and quite often we were sleeping rough, or we were sleeping in places like Gatwick Airport, or some. Oh no, we got one of those old vans, didn't we?
Yeah, common van, like a common.
Yeah, we slept in that. Yeah.
One of the things when we didn't have anything, when eating was an issue and paying for food, what we did was, which sounds quite clever, we'd go into a motorway cafe, and we'd order tea. 4 of us would order tea. And then we'd look around the other tables for food that was left. But we could eat it, right? The trouble we discovered is you can't decide on the order. You might have to start off with profiteroles.
And then have a burger in the middle.
That was the only downside.
I remember really well in this motorway cafe. It must have been 3 or 4 in the morning. It was very, very late. And Heatwave, remember Heatwave, the sort of funk band?
Yeah.
They walked in
and
they all had tour jackets on with Heatwave on the back.
That's right.
And they had people with them, and we just thought, man, what would it be like? Yeah. And the band sat down and someone else got their tea for them and thought, that is proper.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can remember that really.
That's success.
Yeah, that's success.
That is success.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We were very good.
I mean, it is when you're starting off. It's it is just never taking no for an answer. That's the one thing you've got to get in your head. Unless somebody else says something that rings a bell, that sort of chimes with something you've already thought. But if the criticisms are diametrically opposed to anything you believe, ignore it completely.
Yeah.
There are too many people out there who listen to other people. You've got to completely do your own thing. And if people say, I mean, Matt, I'm a big fan of both of Jake Thackeray, right? This poker who most people don't. He's a genius, I think, a forgotten genius. But imagine what a lot of people think about his stuff. I mean, he's completely bonkers.
Got the record company. Hey, I'm not a single, mate.
Do you know what I mean? So, there are lots of art. I like artists where I think that it must have been a bit of a struggle just to get heard because it's so kind of out there. Alex Harvey, stuff like that. That kind
and T-Rex initially.
Some of the T-Rex stuff. Yeah, absolutely.
The thing about that though is that you have to have a sense of what you're doing and a confidence in what you're doing, don't you? Because if you're not confident in what you're doing and there hasn't been a lot of effort and yourself poured into what you're doing, then you can't have the confidence not to listen to other people. Do you see what I mean? I'm not expressing it very well, but
that's
and
true.
because you had been doing it for so long, and you'd kind of been building foundations of, well, this doesn't work, so we'll sling that out and we'll stay with this bit because it did work. And gradually you're building a platform to build up off. Whereas if you're just kind of coming in new to the game and, you know, maybe you might luck into just being really good at writing songs or making planes or whatever it is. But if you've got some history and you've got up after setbacks and that kind of stuff, then it gives you the confidence to be able to say, well, look at all of this body of mistakes and recoveries that I have behind me. I don't think what you're saying is valid, so I'm just going to keep plowing on.
I mean, that's where we are now. We did a project last year in Europe with Universal, and you know we have purposely stayed independent for a very long time, and we have done deals with majors, but they're licensing deals. We've never signed an artist deal since Right Said Fred.
Okay,
and because of that, we will sit in a room with someone and they'll just say, well, that's wrong, or this wrong. And sometimes they're right. I'm not saying they're not. Some people have got good ears, but it's rare. And most of the time, people just like saying no. They just enjoy that process. And so I think when we did this thing last year, we did a very big TV show in Europe, and it was backstage was just like this mini town. It was huge, and we were there for about 10 hours in our dressing room with some of the staff from Universal Music. They didn't ever talk about music. They didn't talk about artists unless it was in relation to their Twitter accounts, Instagram, or metadata, or merch. No one talked. No one said, "Oh, have you heard that band so and so? Have you heard that track?" Nothing. No one mentioned it. I mean, literally 10 hours in a room, and we just thought. We would talk about a song. We had our guitars with us. We were sort of playing around with some ideas, and they were just music was just nothing. I mean, I don't know. We could have been selling sweet corn. They just didn't care. No involvement.
Wasn't there a label over here where the guy that they put in charge, the CEO, was the ex-head of Silit Bang?
Yeah. That was when Guy Hands took over. When Guy Hands took over EMI.
No.
I think for marketing, he hired the guy from Silit Bang. I think he did.
But I mean, we're people think that we're very anti major labels, and we're actually not. What we're anti is people not digging what we do.
Just being told.
That's all it is. If we met a major label, I don't care who it is, the biggest label in the world, and they actually liked what we did and believed in what we were doing, I would sign on a heartbeat.
But also, I think the problem is we're quite mouthy. And we are not good at being told what to do. And
so the lockdown's been tricky.
Yeah,
I can imagine.
Exactly. And we had one meeting with we did a deal through BMG in Germany, and we'd had 2 really big albums, and we had done a sold-out arena tour, and it was going very well. We're sitting in a meeting, and then the meeting's not going particularly well for some reason. And the next minute I see Richard's jumped, the big glass tables they have in these stupid conference halls. He's leapt across. He's got the CEO of BMG in a chokehold. And I'm going, what the fuck is going on?
I wasn't taking my antidepressants that day.
Way to close the deal, though.
It's got him like this, and I'm going, what the hell's going on? In all fairness, it was a guy called Andy Selenite. In all fairness,
he was all right.
He was very cool about it, and he said, "You're artists, I understand. You get a bit temperamental." He was very cool about it. But we are not good at being ordered around.
Well, we're
just not.
What happened? We had this meeting. We'd done a video for a track, and everybody was sitting around the table, and the screen was there, and everyone was looking at the video. And at the end of it, one of us said, "That is absolute crap. That video is crap."
It was our video, wasn't it?
It was our video. Yeah.
Shit.
It was shit. And the guy came and said, "Yeah, but what you don't seem to understand is 80% of everything we do is shit."
Yeah, she did.
What?
I'm sorry. What? I'm sorry. What?
So we're not averse to that at all, but it has to be. People got to dig what you do and not treat you. One of the problems with Sexy was we thought that people liked us and liked and liked the track for itself. What they were actually digging was the money it was making.
Yeah, that's
and we didn't see that.
Yeah,
we just didn't see that.
Right.
So we were under the impression that everybody around us at the time were digging us. They weren't. They were digging the profit margin.
Well, we took it.
That's what it was.
After we did about 18, 20 months of constant touring. Well, this was promotional touring, not live touring. And we were getting really tired and bad tempered. We've been all over the world. I mean, like 4 or 5 times, and different time zones, getting really overtired. And we sat down. I don't know where we were, but we talked about going on the road. We said, "Man, we've all been playing for years. Why aren't we touring?" And we worked out that in 20 months we had played 16 minutes of live music.
Wow.
Yeah,
we were big on waving
because we became we just became celebrities, and we were doing a TV show in America called, what's that, Regis and Kathy Lee?
Yeah, Regis and Kathy Lee.
Very
big morning show.
Huge morning show, has been for decades. And they actually asked us why we're there. They had booked us because we were so famous in America. We'd been on fucking everything. Yeah. And they didn't know what we did. Their talent booker just booked us because we'd been on Arsenio Hall and MTV 1,000 times and everything else. So we rock up with our guitars and stuff, and they go, "What do you guys do?" "Well, we're musicians." "Why are we here?" Yeah. And they didn't know why they booked us. They actually didn't know.
Yeah,
I think, and it was just, you just get famous for being famous. We just got on this conveyor belt of fame. It was fucking miserable.
Also, there was no band. If we'd grown up with a bunch of, one of the things we often talk about is how envious we are of artists who have grown up together and stick together. A band like U2 or Muse or the Stones or whoever, you know. Yeah. And you grow up. I mean, I know that Stones have changed personnel a little bit over the years, but Keith Richards and Mick Jagger have got this thing that goes back, to when they were kids. And I'm really envious of that because I think it gives you a grounding. It gives you a base. You're a unit, and it gives you a kind of strength when you're confronted with all this nonsense in the business. Our problem, in a way, was the fact that we were just a writing team. We weren't a band at all at that time. And when Sexy broke, we'd only been with Rob for about a year, and we had no experience together. We had no grounding, if you like, as 3 musicians working together. It was just it came out of left field. We had nothing to base it on. I think we would have handled it much better had we been a band. But interestingly, up until very recently, not having a band has been a problem. But with the lockdown, interestingly enough, not having a band is a real bonus. Because we can now write and just go online and do all that stuff. We don't need to worry about how's the drummer going to make money because we're not out playing. Yeah. So that what was a problem has actually become a benefit now. Yeah. So
hopefully not for too long.
But hopefully not for too long. Yeah. I mean, lots of players out there.
And on that point of just the commoditization of music and kind of what's the word I'm looking for? It basically taking all of the emotion and the stuff that we get into music for. Yeah. Did you get a sense that it's just changed, that kind of thing has just changed its face over between like 1990 and now? Because you were saying the people from Universal were talking about it in very kind of businessy terms, but actually what you recognized in 1991 was that that's what regardless of what they were saying, that's how everyone was treating it.
I think we did meet a couple of people when we were we did a deal in Germany when Sexy broke with a company called Interchord. And they were real music lovers. It was very driven by music. They put a huge amount of effort into the band and into the album, which is why it performed so well. And they really did believe in us. It wasn't just a licensing deal because we were having hits somewhere else. Some countries you go to, they were just there to bank your money. That was clear. But certain territories like Holland, Belgium, Germany, America initially. And they were very, very into the band and saw the potential. And other territories like France, Italy didn't give a crap and just wanted to bank some money and get you on the first plane home. Yeah. So it kind of depends where we were, to be honest with you. And that's the downside of being independent, where you have different licensing deals because you don't have an umbrella there's not one train of thought coming from the head office. But that can also work against you, because once the head office goes off you, everybody goes off you. So it kind of swings and roundabouts, really.
Yeah, exactly.
So do you feel like initially you had this various companies around the world who were really into the music? Do you feel like that's diminished over the last 20 years, 30 years, however long it's been?
Sort of. The way we see it, it's fame is a bit like being in a really dark room and there's a carousel right in the middle, and a spotlight at one end, and the carousel's going round, and periodically you're under the spotlight, and then you're back in the darkness again, and then you come round and back in the spotlight, then you're in the dark. That's what being famous is like. So for us, it's been very, very like that. Yeah, sometimes it's very, very difficult, and also as Fred says, we're quite bolshy, I think. And we're not easy people to get on with, I don't think.
We didn't play the fame game very well, partly because we just didn't care. I think
you've got to want it.
I thought when I was a kid, I thought I really wanted it, and then when we got it, I actually realised I'm actually not really that bothered about it. And we, when we were in America, we'd go drinking with Mickey Rourke and Johnny Depp and all this sort of stuff. And I didn't really care. I mean, Mickey Rourke was actually very friendly, and Johnny Depp was quite funny, and et cetera, et cetera. But we didn't swap numbers, and we didn't think, let's go and get some hookers and do a bit of gear and all this sort of stuff. We didn't.
Is that an option?
Yeah. I think it definitely was. I think we could have made that happen. So I think, and some bands some artists are brilliant at doing that.
Yeah.
They're just brilliant. They get it, they understand it, and they want it. We are not like that, and we don't do much. We don't do any TV. Richard gets asked to do TV. About once a week, or nearly every week, we get a request. And yesterday we were requesting, what was it? Celebrity karaoke.
Something.
What?
Yeah.
What? and I'm sure they're very nice people, and they're going to do a good show, but we just don't care. And we've been asked to do it. Every reality show we were asked to do that. What was that thing? The Secret Singer? No, what was that thing?
The Secrets.
Yeah.
What the hell was that mad show?
Where you had to dress up as something else.
You dressed up as a EW, I know what the hell it was.
I saw one episode of that.
We get asked to do all this, particularly Richard, we get asked to do all this stuff. And years ago, we just decided that's just not us. So we had to create a little corner of the music industry that we can function in without having to play that game. Yeah. And with financially we're much worse off than we were, because we made that decision. We don't play. And you just have to decide. But that's just.
It's also what you can do.
What you can live with.
What you can live with. We were invited to a premiere a couple of years ago, Leicester Square, and it was a big movie. There was John Travolta there and
Ray
Liotta, and a whole bunch of And we were invited to the red carpet and up into the green room and everything. So this will be. When we got there was cameras everywhere and people everywhere and everything else. We got there and we thought, oh my, this is just awful. So what we did, we went to the pub just up the road. So we got completely wasted.
Got so drunk.
Got really drunk. And then we went down.
And we were fucking wasted. Yeah. And it was really funny because we went in the green room, and John Travolta and Ray Liotta, they were both really friendly, and they didn't mind that we were really, really drunk. And they recognised, they knew who we were, and they were very nice. But we're just not very good at that stuff. We've never swapped numbers with famous people. Quite often we get journalists ringing up saying, "Can you want to talk about your
famous friends?"
Your famous friends, and we haven't got any. Well, I've got one. It's him.
That we had. I don't know whether you know the band, the Vaccines, but we had we did a podcast with. Yeah.
Yes, I know.
We did a podcast with Freddie, the guitarist, and we had a very similar conversation with him. In terms of, looking towards that inner ring of when I get there, then I'm going to be really happy. I'll have made it. And then you get into the inner ring and you're like, wow, this is really bizarre and I don't want to be here and I want to go home.
Yes, that's exactly what happened.
And that's kind of what you're describing.
Yes.
It is also the mistake you make in thinking that there's a destination to get to. There is no destination.
Yes.
I know it sounds old-fashioned, but it's actually a journey. And you've got to get this idea out of your head that there's actually a specific place you want to get to. There is no such place. And we've learned that. I think we finally learned it now. But in the early days, as you say, that you do think, if I get to that place, if I have that car and that house and blah, 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 I'll be happy. That's not how it works. You know? And funny enough, there's an interview with George Clooney on the radio, on TV ages ago. And he's got this big villa on Lake Garda or wherever it is in Switzerland. And he said he was feeling really miserable and blah, blah, blah. And he was driving home and he was having some work done at this villa. And as he got home, all the workmen were leaving. And they had bottles of red wine in their hands and huge loads of bread in it. And he said they were all laughing and joking and having a great time. And he said, what? They're workmen not making anything like the money I'm making, and they're happier than I am. What is that? So, and that's kind of, it's a lesson you just have to, it's a lesson you have to learn.
When you see some other bands on the road, particularly at things like awards ceremonies, when people have got their guard down a little bit, and some of the car crashes you see, it's really horrible.
Or in airports.
Or in airports. People they've just had enough, and some bands, I don't think they're a tight enough unit to support each other, or they're just disappointed. And or the other side of things is where you see the really big stars, and the manipulation is just off the chart. You know, I mean, we did a Top of the Pops with 50 Cent. And his dressing room was right opposite ours. This is in Germany. And makeup was called, so we go down to makeup. And we're going to makeup, and he's got all these security guards around him. And I'm going, how violent are these makeup women? How violent? I thought you were a gangster, man. Do you know what I mean? I thought you were, going to give it some. And he's got all these security around him while these people do his makeup. And just let it go, man.
Also, I've never quite understood why he's not the full dollar.
I don't know.
Why would you? It's like calling yourself 30 pence.
Half a shilling.
Half a shilling. Half a shilling. Steve's gone.
Oh no,
he does
I'll be back
periodically. He, he's out the back of his garden, so there he is.
I'm back.
He's back. Okay.
It's to keep people on their toes. Make sure you're watching.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Going back to the money.
Sorry, go on.
Sorry, I was just going to say it's like that. Going back to the money thing and thinking that that's like the goal and that's what makes people happy and everything. Whereas I think really happiness is the thing you should aim at, right? I mean, that's what it's rather than, everybody buy a car because it will make me happy. It will make me happy. Why don't you just work on
happiness?
Absolutely.
That's a good thing. I agree with you completely.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
It's crazy, and I think people put too much stuff on. It's financial stuff. I mean, it's like you said, you've got financially you're worse off because you've created a place where you can live and do what you want, and you've got that freedom.
Yes.
Which is, I mean, I'd much prefer that than be, not say I wouldn't like millions and millions of pounds, but be that and freaking miserable. I mean, how hideous is that to be?
Also, it is big. When Jeff Bezos makes $18 billion in a day, the game's up. Yeah. I mean, Paul McCartney has been in the music business since he was 22 or 23, and he's not worth anything like that. And you know what I mean? It's so to measure everything by money is a Western problem. It's not something that you get in every country, in every culture. And in the West, we are obsessed with tables of league tables of one kind or another. His car, the Times do a rich list.
Yeah, they should. Why don't they do a
poor
list?
They haven't got the nuts. That's why. Yeah. I can't think of anything more nauseating than a rich list.
Oh, Christ. It's a miserable message.
It symbolises illness to me. I think it's awful. I think it's really awful.
Maybe something to think about is not necessarily how to formulate this. So if money is not the answer to happiness, then and you want to be happy, then maybe the thing to do is, and I'm sure you guys have had to work through this once, twice, every day, that you need to work out how you can be happy and fulfilled where you are right now. So if I've got loads of money, I still need to rest on the same things that I'm resting on when I've got no money.
Yes, that's true.
Do you see where am I putting my hope? If I'm putting my hope in having loads of money, then that can come and go like that. And so when did you have kind of fluctuating incomes over the last 30 years? And after Sexy, did it tail off? And what was going through your mind, and how do you process that?
Well, what was weird with Sexy is because of the synchronizations, because of its use in movies and commercials and stuff, while our fame was crashing and burning, our income was going up. So we had this very strange feeling of becoming less famous and less popular, but getting richer.
Yeah.
not for a long time.
Like Tony Blair, really?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just like Tony Blair. Fortunately, I didn't have to sleep with Cherry Boo. Cherry, what's her name? Cherry Blair.
Cherry.
That's a miserable gig, isn't it? Good Lord. Anyway, putting that aside, so we were in this mad place for about a couple of years, maybe 3 years at the most, and then we split up with Rob, and then we sort of rebranded ourselves as more of a duo, and that's when we did the BMG deal. But our position's slightly conflicted, because on the one hand we refuse to do certain things, but on the other hand we have to have a certain level of financial wealth, for the want of a better word, to maintain independence. Otherwise, if we drop below that, we become dependent. Yeah. So we're in this constant battle between what we need and what we want to do.
Yeah.
So fortunately, we're pretty lucky. I mean, this year's difficult because shows have been pulled and everything. But normally, we bridge that gap with shows, and particularly corporates, or we get a good sync. Something normally happens, and we bridge that gap. So we are in the position of we don't have we can't just do what we want all the time because we don't have enough money, but we do have enough money to do what we want to do as long as we work in a certain way.
It makes us very focused. Obviously.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
If we're signed to a label and they suddenly gave us a whole chunk of money to do some recording, we wouldn't be anything like as focused as we are.
Careful. Yeah.
And that's why politicians waste so much money, because it's not their money.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that's for us, it's being independent. As Fred said, we have had to take a knock financially, but it's given us a creative freedom and an ability to pick and choose much more than it would be the case if we were signed or had heavyweight management telling us what to do.
Yeah. And we actually had made that decision about 3 years ago. We were approached by some very well-known managers. They had already pretty much set up a deal with a major, and they couldn't believe. We phoned them up and said, "Sorry guys, this is not for us." I mean, the disbelief. I think they wanted to have us sectioned because they're so used to artists being so keen and so desperate. And we just said that we just don't want this. I'm sorry. Well, they were quite upset.
Yeah, the interesting thing about sort of big money or profile or whatever it is, you can either own it or it owns you.
Yes, completely.
That's the choice. Yeah. And if it's really big money that you want and fame and all that stuff, there's a degree to which that will own you.
Yeah, it is.
It will control you and own you. I remember in a mafia movie years ago that I watched, one guy said to another, "The only guy you have to fear is the guy you can't buy." And I think there's an element of truth in that, and that's true. And it's true of art too. It's true. The only artist you've got to not worry about, but to watch in a way, is the guy who won't stop painting what he wants to paint just because it doesn't fit in. I mean, I used to know a couple of artists, and they'd get, "Well, we like that painting. Can you make it more yellow?"
Yeah.
That goes in my front room. Can you make it more blue? You know what I mean?
I've just bought a red pair of shoes.
Can you make it match my shoes? Yeah. So I think that you have to know where the line is. You just do.
Yeah.
It sounds a bit pompous, but you just do.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you. I mean, I remember actually the first time I met Mr. Crow was in a guitar shop up in Peterborough, but.
Right. Peterborough.
Peterborough. You were demoing your amp, right? And the guys were just like, "So how do you make it sound like a Vox? How would you do like a Marshall thing?" It's just, it is a different thing. It's
exactly.
I had a sound in my head and I was going for that. I created this thing, and this is it.
Exactly.
But that's also it's the same thing. I mean, I say I bore everybody with this all the time, but you can only make really great, something that you truly love.
Yes.
So you can go along. I mean, I'm sure like Steve, for example, could make a Marshall style amp for, you know, he could do that. It would be cool, but it wouldn't be Steve. Do you know what I mean?
Copy.
You know, it's got to be. It's like when I design pickups or pedals or all that kind of stuff. I literally play one chord and it's either I'll know then, like yes or no. You can't sit there and overanalyze stuff. The same when I've been in bands and you're trying to get a song together. You know when it's right.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, you do.
But again, it's having that kind of self-belief, I guess.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
I think also in the culture that we're in, we're encouraged to think that imitation and copying is a skill all of its own. And I remember I was watching, somebody phoned me up about Britain's Got Talent or something, The Voice, and they said, "Oh, you've got to watch this guy who won this week. He sounds exactly like Frank Sinatra, and he's black." What? We've got black. We've got Frank Sinatra. We don't need to. You know, for them that was the thing. It was a really, and I think there was a time when imitation was just imitation, or just copying, and now it's been raised to a level of having some kind of artistic integrity somehow. I don't know. A lot of singers all sound the same. You know, a lot of songwriters all write the same. There's a lot of homogenization of the artistic process now, which I think is a real shame. And I think it's partly because the media has failed in its job to disseminate as much new and different material as possible. It tends to be very, very dependent on major labels and management weight. And record labels haven't shown enough bravery, I don't think, in going for stuff that they think might be difficult. In a way, it's the other way around. Back in the day, I always give the impression that you would create what you wanted to create and then find a label or a person that thinks they can sell it. Now the label decides what they think they can sell and try to find the artist to provide it. It's all round the wrong way.
Yeah, it is. We did a record not long ago, and the producer, well, actually about 3 or 4 years ago now, and Richard's a bass baritone, so his voice has a specific sound. And so the mix came back, and we said, we really don't like that compression and that what you've done to his vocal. He said, yeah, but it's what everyone's using. We don't like it. We don't like it, mate. You know, and we trying to have the conversation was that he didn't understand. He said, yeah, but everyone's doing it. But we don't like it.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, exactly. You know. Exactly. It's just the interesting thing, I think, though, is that normally speaking, punters, the people out front, the public, are much more open-minded than the media and the record companies imagine. Yeah. They're much more prepared. I mean, on our new CD thing, EP thing, there's a track called Tide, which is very, very different from anything we've done before. But that is the track that's got the attention. That's the track that people are talking about. Nothing doesn't sound anything like anything we've done before. If we'd taken that track into a label, they would have been thinking, why can't we have I'm Too Sexy number 4, or why can't we have Deeply Dippy number 3? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The irony after you schlepping around all the record labels and saying that is the worst song I've ever heard in my life, and now they're asking for repeats of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, our record company at the time, when they suggested a song to us, they said, we've got a song for you, Suntan.
Christ.
I don't think we even played it. We just knew from the title which hated.
Do you remember what he said? The record company said, "We're going to have Top of the Pops again. Can you go on with bow ties and shorts?"
Oh, that's right. Like the sort of Chippendales.
Like the Chippendales, yeah. No.
Oh, wow.
You already look stupid enough.
Can you go on and do it instead?
Yeah.
You know, so it's a mix. You know, I mean, when we were signed to Ministry of Sound in Germany, they tried to turn us into a kind of serious, songwriting duo. So all our publicity photos were denim jackets and denim jeans,
flight cases
and all that, And that didn't work for us. It didn't work for punters either. So that was a learning curve for us.
Yeah.
So it's always a bit of a balance. You want to do what you want to do, and you want to be what you want to be, with an understanding that people out front have a memory of you. They have a view of you. I remember watching I saw the Stones thing come up on my YouTube thing, and I really like watching Mick Jagger and the Stones. So I flicked it on, and I had it in my head what I wanted Mick Jagger to look like. And I wanted him to look skinny, and I wanted him to look all sort of emaciated and kind of, I don't know, predatory, yeah. And he was wearing this great big Joseph multicoloured ankle-length coat. Mm. I turned it off.
Mm. Wrong coat, mate.
It's the wrong coat. I'm not interested.
Wrong coat.
Yeah. But I'm aware that I'm like that too. So it's always a balance between being what you want to be, doing what you want to do, but recognizing that people out front have a memory of you too, and an image of you.
I had a conversation with my 13-year-old daughter about. Well, I can't remember how it started now, but we got on to the fact that the kind of music that she listens to, and I guess it's mainly influenced by TikTok, the kind of music that she listens to, there's an artist who presents it, and then there are songwriters behind it. Yeah. And like you're saying, that homogenizes everything. Yes. And I wonder if, we could go down all kinds of avenues about why that is and the money side of it and all that kind of stuff. But when somebody is singing somebody else's song, apart from a very, very few cases, it's not a coherent message.
No.
Quite often it's not.
No.
I agree with you.
To sing somebody else's song, and I think that's why Sinatra was so successful.
Exactly, yeah.
He had a real understanding of interpretation.
And Elvis.
Elvis Presley was the same. Yeah. I think that's a skillful thing to do. And Sinatra, I'm more of a fan of Sinatra than Elvis, but Sinatra understood the story aspect of songs. That you're telling a story. That's what you're trying to communicate to people. Mm. With a lot of singers, their trickery and all their little grace notes and stuff, that becomes the point of it. But to me, that's nonsense. I would rather listen to Leonard Cohen than listen to all of that stuff, because it's the story that counts. It's the intent. Bette Midler once said, "Never sing a song unless you know it," and she's absolutely right. Never sing a song unless you know it and understand what you're trying to. It's like writing a novel and having no idea what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
So I think that's right. I think the homogenization of it is a bad thing. But the weird thing is, when I remember when I was at school and I listened to and I heard "Ride a White Swan" for the very first time, Mark Bolan. And it sounded like it came from one of the outer rings of Saturn. It didn't seem to have history. There was no bass. I couldn't hear the drummer. I didn't know what his history was. It just was there. Brilliant, absolutely. And it was about 2 minutes 30.
And then just na-na-nas.
And then it was na-na-nas. Absolutely brilliant. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And I think that stuff's had an impression on me. That sense of stuff coming out of left field and surprising you. I like that. I think that's cool.
Yeah.
And I suppose the internet is good to a degree that if something you can see everything. There's so much content out there.
Yeah,
the difficulty comes in you finding your way to the thing that is really going to grab you. And there have been a few times. I apologise for the fact I don't spend enough time searching out new music.
Right.
But there are some times when I've gone onto a website and heard something and it's just grabbed me by the guts, which doesn't happen very often.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of the internet. But there's so much noise. That's the problem.
There is too much noise.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Well, what I tend to do, I'm not very good at searching up new music either. I'm a bit lazy. What I tend to do is I tend to go on YouTube and just scan through the things. I watch a lot of stand-up. That's my favourite, absolute favourite thing to do. I love watching stand-up. And interestingly enough, for me, stand-up is saying a lot more about the way we live than pop music these days.
Yeah, true, yeah.
If the days of Joan Baez and Bob Dylan and all that sort of anti-Vietnam thing has gone now. Pop music is just is background noise to a large extent.
The majors won't let you.
And the majors are not interested, And I remember I can't remember the name of the band, that when the Twin Towers came down and that band said...
Backstreet Boys.
Backstreet Boys. They merely asked a question, which was, why do people hate us so much? That was the question. And they had to recant and apologise because their tour was being backed by Clear Channel or somebody, and they had to apologise.
Wow.
So that's the once you become part of it, a system, You have to be, and I think that's why stand-up is so, particularly some of the American stuff. I mean, some of the American stuff is so good and so raw. Patrice O'Neill and Bill Burr and these guys. I absolutely love it. I was watching Jimmy Carr last night. There's no way a pop artist could get away for a second, even going where he's going.
Yeah.
It's interesting that stand-up is so much more risky than pop music now. I find that quite interesting.
Yeah. I like. I've seen him a couple of times live. Russell Howard.
Oh right, yeah.
He's really funny, and the cool thing I think he does really well is he talks about all the negative stuff and everything, but highlights the positive stuff. Which I haven't watched the news for ages now. But because all it is you're just been hammered with all that.
It's fear porn. Yeah, it is.
Death porn, I think. It's
death porn.
It's the most. BBC and Sky and the rest of them. They've lost the plot completely. Yeah, disgraceful behaviour.
Yeah, I mean, somebody got signed off work because they'd watched too much news, like when the lockdown started, and had a breakdown. It's just like.
Well, have you heard of Zoom gloom?
Zoom gloom? No.
Yeah. That's depression caused by too much Zoom.
Wow. I can believe it.
Yeah.
Some people have had to go on medication because they've been Zooming too much.
It's
like text.
Sounds like something else.
Yeah.
So, been Zooming too much.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
Yeah, but that positivity thing is I was watching an American series called This Is Us, which I've now turned off because it's got too saccharine. But that was all about positivity. All the characters were positive. Whereas if you watch Damages with Glenn Close, most of the characters are negative. So it depends. But it is quite nice to watch stuff where it's not this continual negative input. And I don't blame you for not watching the news. I don't watch the news anymore. And I think
it's got to be a balance, hasn't it? Because the world is not entirely bad.
No, exactly.
No, of course.
You see a kid running in the park, and that's wonderful to see.
Yes.
And that exists in the world. It's not all people dying, and no one has any money, and everyone's ill.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's the people are in our career. 99% of people have been nice.
Mm-hmm.
We've got one or two people who have been a bit shitty. But almost everybody, if they ask for selfies, they're really pleasant, they're really positive, they're just nice.
Most people.
Yeah, I mean, when in the very early days, I had a bit of anti-gay stuff, but that lasted maybe for a few months, and that was it really. It sort of petered out pretty quickly.
Came and went, didn't it?
And also people's attitude to that
changed.
And also, I think partly because I was with Stuart, my partner. We were together for 28 years, so we weren't on the scene. We weren't typical, you know what I mean? Sort of, camp kind of couple, really. We just spent a lot of time watching Star Trek and staying at home. That's what we did. So I wasn't seen as, I've never been invited, as a band, we've never been invited to a gay event, ever. Never. When they do these LGBT things, I think I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm not quite gay enough.
I was going to say, you're not gay enough. That's the problem.
Bad gay person.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Talking of staying at home, clumsily segueing into,
yes.
Can you think of the word, like a real nightmare gig that you've done as Fred? Have you ever had an absolute stinker for whatever reason and just been like, oh man, the universe is conspiring against us tonight?
Yes. We were.
What do you think?
One thing we did a show in Cologne. We were the headline. It was a big festival. It was, I don't know, 25, about 30,000 maybe. Quite a big festival, not huge, quite big. And there was a band on before us, and all their stuff was na 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 na. So, and we just had two massive albums, and we were on TV a lot and everything else. And this band were going down a storm. I thought, I just assumed we were going to rock the house. I just assumed we did.
Rubbish, all four on the floor.
Yeah,
no lyrics.
Yeah, it was. Are you feeling all right? You feel
Can you hear me in the back?
Yeah,
you've got a microphone, mate.
So we just assumed we were going to do it, and we went out and at that time we could do like an hour and a half, and it was just hit after hit in that territory. And we went out there, and after the first song, I'm expecting them to go like this, and so it's like tumble.
No.
Is the PA on? and that really taught me a lesson. Do not take it for granted.
No.
We went down all right, but we didn't go down as well as the band before us. And I just thought, what? It was a real. I mean, that was a learning curve in terms of bad. And we've done when we first started.
Do you remember the Music Machine?
Yeah, we did some really heavy gigs with the Music Machine,
which is now Coco's.
Yeah, and what was the one we did? What was the other one we did? Oh yeah, we played. We were touring America, and we did a place called the Back Room in Texas, I think it was Austin.
Initially, I thought it was going to be a fun night.
Yeah, and so we turn up at this gig, and the tour manager or the driver, whatever we had, he said he's very nervous, and we walk in to do the sound check, and they've actually got the chicken wire in a roll above the stage, like in the Blues Brothers. So we go, okay, what's all this about? And it's a bikers bar. We didn't know this. It's why we've been booked into this, who knows? It's a bikers bar. It's holds about 1,000 people, so it's not huge or anything. And the tour manager saying, he said, we better keep the cars running outside because this is going to get really ugly. And we'd play some pretty heavy gigs, so we weren't particularly bothered. So we go out there, and within about 20 minutes, they're all doing this. They've all got their colours on. They've all got the big beards and all the plastic fantastic girlfriends, and they're singing "I'm Too Sexy" and they're doing "Deeply Dippy" and they're line dancing, and it was hilarious. And we just thought we were going to get bottled, and it was going to be we're going to have a ruck. It wasn't at all. They were fantastic, and they didn't. There was no homophobia. There was nothing about it at all. It was just that they just turned up and thought, do we like this band? Yeah, they're all right, and they had a good night. It was really bizarre.
Yeah, I think it's with the gay thing. I think in terms of people who are potentially homophobic, and this sounds a bit weird, but if they like you as a person, they think you're okay as a person, then the gayness is not an issue.
Yeah.
I really do believe that. I think if they think you're okay as a person and you smile and you're affable,
they see through it.
And the gay thing is a tiny, tiny part of the overall picture. If you come across as a bit agitprop and a bit aggressive, and you'd be much happier if you were gay like me, then I think people it riles them. Yeah, you just have to be affable, and it's very hard to hit somebody when they're smiling. So keep smiling is what I say.
People don't like other people who are aggressive, and it doesn't matter whether you're extremely religious or you're gay or you're whatever it is. If you're aggressively trying to ram what you believe down somebody else's throat, and there's no love, it's not motivated by love, then people aren't going to like you.
Exactly.
No, it gets boring. Also, if I go to a gig, I don't care what the guy's political position is, what his sexual position. I don't care. I'm here to hear your music. Get the fuck on with it.
Yeah.
And that is it. I'm just when people start preaching, you get that whole thing. Some bands do. I think you're hijacking a platform for your own benefit.
Yeah.
I think that's in
the Morrissey thing and Brexit is a bit.
Yeah, I just think
a bit like that.
You should just let it go. I mean, it's his gig. You could argue, but people are paid to hear your songs. Just get on with it.
Yeah, exactly.
I walk into a greengrocer's. I don't want to hear him rattling on about what he thinks about, Starmer or whoever or Brexit or anything else. I want my groceries and I want to go home.
Yeah. Also, there aren't many artists out there who are skillful enough, like Dylan, to wrap up what they believe in a really good song.
Yes, few and far between.
They're few and far between. If you can do that, then you can rattle on and be as evangelical about your ideas as you like. But it's very rare to be able to find somebody who can do that.
Dylan doesn't speak.
And that's it's a different thing as well, isn't it? Because you're receiving what you expect to receive, because the song is there.
Yes,
all of his views are in the song, so you're going there expecting to hear this song. You know the content of the song, rather than turning up and going in to buy some carrots and being handed a pamphlet on decriminalisation of drugs or whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, also with a song like "Blowing in the Wind," say, you don't even need to know what it's about to know that it's a good song.
It's a great song.
You know, the fact it's got a political thing, or like Buffalo Springfield. You know, you don't need to know what the meaning of the song is. It's just a good song, and you can get off it in that way if you want to.
Mm.
But it's rare, I think.
It is rare.
Yeah, it's very rare. Yeah.
We definitely need to go to the pub when we're allowed to go back to the pub. I would love to spend an afternoon having a couple of beers with you.
Yeah. Well, talking about pubs, I went to a local pub the other day, and there's a little old lady, and we go out for lunch about once a week. She's in a care home around the corner. Mm. And we toddle around the corner and we go for lunch. And this pub it's just a local corner pub.
It's a boozer.
It's just a boozer, old school boozer. And 2 glasses of wine. They've got more screens up in there. It looks like a high hazard biotech laboratory. They've got a little hatch that they pass the drinks through, and they take your temperature before you order. This is the world that we're building. You know, and I'm sorry, but anybody who thought they were electing a libertarian in number 10 when they elected Boris Johnson needs to wake up. He's more authoritarian than anybody on the Labour side. I think it's unbelievable.
He's horrible, man.
It's absolutely unbelievable the way this has gone. I think
we have to wind up in a minute, guys.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are. Sorry, I was just.
Sorry, do you want us for? I wasn't sure how long you wanted us for. Sorry.
No, do you know what? It's absolutely fine. But you know, it's just been nice. It's nice to just listen to the stories, man. I could do it, as Steve said, like all afternoon. But unfortunately, we're limited by actual space that we can record this thing on. So, it's actually we can. It's about time to wrap it up.
Right. Fred's off to the gym, and if you need us to do this again, just let us know.
Yeah, sure. Happy to anytime.
Yeah. No, this is brilliant. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure listening to this stuff and to see you guys again.
So I'm out on the bike now. I'm going to go.
Yep.
Yeah. Where are you going?
Well, I'm going to cycle around town. I could cycle around the entire town in 10 minutes. So if I do that 5 times, that's about an hour.
Perfect.
That's my plan.
Right.
Yeah, lovely. Get a cup of coffee while you're in the gym.
Oh, cool. Good stuff. All right, man.
Yeah.
Marvellous. Thanks so much, guys.
No, thanks. A pleasure.
Thanks for having us, and we'll speak soon. And no doubt I'll see you with a guitar at some point.
Yeah, man. Get on. Take care, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys. See ya.
Bye.